Coverage of Day 20 of NATO airstrikes on Yugoslavia from state-run Serbian television news, recorded at 1:30 Eastern Time and translated at C-SPAN in Washington, D.C. This portion's about 40 minutes.
You're watching the primetime news of Radio Television Serbia. President of the Republic, Slobodan Milošević, received today the President of the Federal Assembly, Momir Bulatović, and the President of the Citizens' Council of the Federal Assembly, Miomir Minić, and Mr. Srđan Božović. They briefed him on the decision on the accession of Federal Republic of Yugoslavia to the Union of Russia and Belarus. They stressed that all of the leading political parties within the Federal Assembly were unanimous regarding the proposed decision, and it was passed without a single vote against, which shows the great unity of people's representatives in bringing this decision of huge importance for our country. President Milošević stated that this union expresses the best way the expectations and hopes of Yugoslav citizens and their support for this great move towards strengthening the stability, security, and peace at the threshold of our new century. This decision at the same time opens the door for greater progress in scientific, economic, and cultural exchange. This move is going to strengthen the ties between Yugoslav people, Russians, and Belarusians. Their cooperation, their confidence and understanding, founded on long-lasting friendship, freedom struggles, and striving for peace, equality, and progress in the world, stated the President of the Republic in his discussion with the President of the Federal Assembly and the President of the Citizens' Council. The Federal Assembly had a session today with a unanimous decision on the accession of Yugoslavia to the Union of Russia and Belarus. Based on the results from these votes, I declare hereby that the Citizens' Councils of the Federal Assembly adopted the proposed decision on the accession of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia to the Union of Russia and Belarus. The applause that greeted this decision on the accession of our country to Russia and Belarus passed without a single vote against, confirmed once again the freedom and solidarity of these three Slavic peoples created in a long history of struggle against many conquerors, but also shows the beginning of a new period in which these three people will have even closer contacts and cooperation in all aspects of life, especially in this important moment, but also for the future. They'll increase the security in the Balkans and Europe. Today's joint session of both houses of the Parliament of Yugoslavia, dedicated to the new chapter of the European future, began with a silent honoring of those perished in the war for the fatherland and the victims of NATO aggression. In the explanation of the decision that Yugoslavia joined the Union of Russia and Belarus, the Federal Prime Minister Momir Bulatović stated, "This union creates all of the conditions for the people of Russia, Belarus, and Yugoslavia join their forces together, and today, on this crossroads of civilization, protect their vital state and national interests, and once again make their unique contribution to the just goals for peace and cooperation in Europe and the world. The accession of Yugoslavia to the Federation of Russia and Belarus will create conditions for a faster economic, cultural, and scientific development of our people. This union will be especially important in the fight for peace and security in Europe. The accession of Yugoslavia to the Union of Russia and Belarus is a natural expression of historical attempts of our people to connect ourselves together and protect their national interests, as well as a feeling of confidence that they're giving contribution to peace, stability in Europe and the world. The elimination of customs, administrative and all other artificial obstacles, the free movement of people, goods, scientific, economic and cultural contributions is a natural expression of this union and creates conditions for a full employ of the great human and creative potentials of our countries and their faster progress and adequate place in Europe and world at large. Given the situation with the global movements in Europe and the world, and the need for a fuller defense of all of the interests of all of these countries, members of the Union. Today and in the future, the federal government proposes to the Federal Assembly to pass this decision on the accession of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia to the Union of Russia and Belarus, and thus open roads for a stable and dynamic development of our countries and our peoples with full protection of their mutual interests. I thank you. The representatives of the political parties that were present in the parliament stated, our accession to this union is in the interest of the people of Russia, Belarus and Yugoslavia. This is a union for peace, economic development and cooperation in all aspects of life. This is a true response to those who want by force to change the world and destroy something that has been built for decades, international relations and relations among various states. The decision that we're passing today can be a historic milestone. The defense is together to respond to all of the challenges of our time and make our joint contribution to the defense of the fundamental values of humanity, peace and security in the Balkans, Europe and the world. The agreement on the Union is based on a spiritual kinship and similar historic fate of the Russian, Belarusian and Yugoslav people. It signifies a protection of our national sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity. It signifies protection of our security and the military power and continuing with our defensive capacities. We have complementary economies. We have economies that have been mutually helping one another in a comprehensive way in the interest of our people. We see from the West only blockades, only sanctions. And those people, unfortunately, even those Slavic people who allowed themselves so easily to fall into the hands of the West, who rush to the West, now can feel the negative consequences, because West wants only to exploit the economic power, to destroy. They don't care about the future of those people who are suffering because of the immature decisions of their leaderships. I'm convinced today that the decision on the accession of Yugoslavia to the Federation of Russia and Belarus will be unanimously accepted in the Federal Assembly of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, because the Serbian people and all of the citizens of Serbia see their future in their own hands and will direct it only in that direction that secures prosperity to our people, to our state, to our nation, in that direction that will lead us to a better future for our children. The Serbian National Party has given its undivided support for this initiative for a stronger union between our country, Russia and Belarus, because we feel that this union fundamentally accords with our tradition and history, because also we consider that this union will return us to certain roads that had been set by the wisest of our ancestors, and it will rally us around whatever is best within us. Given the fact that the defense of the country is at the moment the main and the supreme task of our patriotic people, This proposal on the decision of the accession of Yugoslavia to the Federation of Russia and Belarus is part of that strategy of defense. The conclusion of these activities in order to join the Russian and Belarusian Federation will certainly contribute to a peaceful resolution of Kosovo and Metohija problem with equality of all people and all national communities with political means, and it will also secure the return of all of the citizens of Yugoslavia to their homes, which is what our country, as well as this parliament of nations' representatives, have been striving for. This is why we shall support the majority of this assembly in order to maintain national unity in these very hard times. In these conditions of an inhuman NATO aggression, all political and partisan differences, as long as this crisis lasts, have no significance. Faced with the survival of our nation, all our differences are left aside. All our forces are unified. This is how the Assembly of Yugoslavia was today. They spoke in a dignified manner and decisively with a clear vision of the meaning of this decision that indeed can be said to be unanimous. This unanimity was confirmed by the presence of the highest federal and republican officials at the session. Ultimately, the best testimony of the portent of this decision for the future of the country came from the people themselves, who greeted the representatives in front of the building of the Parliament of Yugoslavia. While the representatives of the Federal Assembly of Yugoslavia considered the proposed decision on the accession of Yugoslavia to the Federation of Russia and Belarus, in front of the building of the Federal Assembly there were several thousand citizens in order to give support with their presence to the union of our country with Russia and Belarus. Why are you here? Why am I here? To condemn this NATO aggression on Yugoslavia. I think it's terribly shameful. This has to stop immediately. This is our state, and we won't give it up. To give support to the decision that the Assembly is going to pass. They don't have anything. We have everything. At this moment, we join a union that's much more natural to our spirit and in all other ways. This is one of the ways in which we can defend against the aggression against our country. Everything that was happening the past few days, everything that gathered our people together, both here and in diaspora, all of this shows a great sense of justice, a great sense for the question of survival of the Serbian people, because this is where all of our people are endangered. All of them are united around this fight for freedom and survival for our people. This is a great quality. And I think that this is repeating itself. This happened once before in history, and I think that this will be something that will be written with gold letters in the history of the Serbian people. The reactions in the world have to be positive by all those who are wishing good for Europe and the world, by all those people who are seeking peace, stability, and equality in Europe and the world, by all of those who want peace in this area, stability and equality. We expect positive reactions. Those who do not like this, they certainly have goals against Europe. Long live. See you at the bridge. The Yugoslav ambassador to Moscow, Borislav Milosevic, presented to the Chief Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Avdeyev personal letter from President Milosevic for the President of Russia, Boris Yeltsin. The Yugoslav ambassador at the press conference confirmed that the letter pertains to the possible accession of Yugoslavia to the Federation of Russia and Belarus. The decision of the Federal Assembly of Yugoslavia, passed with absolute majority on the accession of Yugoslavia to the Union of Russia and Belarus, was received in Moscow with great approval. All radio and television stations showed the applause of the parliament representatives and the great enthusiasm of the Belgrade people about this union. It was first and foremost stressed the statement of President Milosevic, the decision of the Parliament of Yugoslavia is a great historic move towards an economic, scientific and cultural integration at the threshold of our century. This is a new road for a more economic, scientific and cultural development of our countries. The President of Kremlin for International Affairs, Sergei Prihodka, stressed that Moscow sees this decision of Yugoslavia as a great esteem for the authority of Russia regarding the resolution of the Kosovo crisis and other international problems. Kremlin is now faced with a task that before the final decision, there is serious analysis of all legal aspects. The head of the Russian diplomacy, Igor Ivanov, stressed that Moscow positively responds to this idea of the tripartite union of Russia, Belarus and Yugoslavia, and they have already undertaken concrete steps to specify all details. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, already stated that he will soon visit Yugoslavia and that he expects that during the meeting with President Milosevic, this will be an important step to find peaceful resolution for the Kosovo crisis. The President of Russia, Boris Yeltsin, in a telephone conversation today with the French President Jacques Chirac, confirmed the position of Russia that it is essential to immediately stop the bombardment of Yugoslavia. This was announced from the office of the Russian president. The Presidents Yeltsin and Chirac discussed about the role of United Nations in the resolution of the Kosovo problem. All leading electronic media in Greece reported that today in Belgrade, both houses of the parliament passed a decision on the accession of Yugoslavia to the Union of Russia and Belarus. While there are no official comments yet in Athens, this decision and the growing influence of Russia in the solution of the crisis in Yugoslavia, a country exposed to brutal destruction of its vital economic infrastructure by these NATO aggressors, is interpreted in Athens as a likely milestone in the resolution of the Kosovo drama. The Patriotic Alliance of Yugoslavia proposed to the Federal Assembly of Yugoslavia that President Milosevic be given an order of National Hero of Yugoslavia. In this proposal, sent to both houses of the parliament and all of the parliamentarians, it is noted Slobodan Milosevic is synonymous with the expressed unity of the people and the army and all of the political forces as a guarantor of our victory over this furious fascism and imperialism that, as stressed by the Patriotic Alliance of Yugoslavia, threatened to subordinate the entire world to their interests. This would also be a recognition to all fighters for freedom, justice, progress of the fatherland who are waging a battle with the technically superior but morally bankrupt enemies of our country, so that we can defend the sovereignty and integrity of our fatherland. The government of the Republic of Serbia, at a meeting today presided by Mirko Marjanovic, fully accepted the decision of the Federal Assembly on the accession of Yugoslavia to the Federation of Russia and Belarus. The spiritual kinship, the traditional friendship and the historic links between Russians, Belarusians and Yugoslavs will make it possible that by means of this union we strengthen our friendly ties and widen our economic and cultural interests of our countries and peoples. This is the best response to those who ignited this war in Europe and want to widen it, who destroyed international relations as well as the United Nations, who want, instead of principles of equality, have dictate of the unscrupulous power. The government of the Republic of Serbia also adopted measures for urgent assistance to the towns and counties that have been hit by the NATO aggression. The government of Serbia told the authorized ministers to prepare immediate programs for the care of the workers of the factories heavily damaged in the evil aggressors' attacks. These measures to be immediately implemented are to secure first assistance to the employees of the industrial facilities destroyed in this bombardment, to repair wherever possible some facilities, to begin the production again, and perhaps create other programs for employing these workers. On this 20th day of the aggression, the heroism of the army and police, the courage of our people, continue to defend our country, its freedom, territorial integrity and sovereignty. The fury, because of the impotence and defeat of this cowboy politics of power, is expressed by bombing civilian facilities, factories, schools, villages, roads, bridges and railroads. The fortress of our people who protect with their lives what had been created for decades and centuries is getting only stronger. The support for this fortress cannot be even hidden in the countries of the aggressors, where citizens are having stronger and stronger voices seeking to stop this aggression. The forces that are asking the blind American might to stop, and to stop its striving to dictate the life around the world, so that we can have the principles of equality and equation among the international people. 7 corpses, among them the body of a 10-year-old child, have been pulled out of the shattered cars of the train hit by the missiles of the criminal NATO aggressor around noon today in Grdelica. In the Leskovac hospital, 16 wounded passengers have been taken care of. Today, on the 12th of April, very close to Grdelica, around 15 kilometers away from Leskovac, the NATO aggressors around noon today committed unprecedented evil. They hit with their missiles a passenger train, while the first car and the engine car were outside the zone of the immediate attack. In this evil attack, the third and the fourth car were completely destroyed. According to Dr. Tomislav Cvetanovic, director of the medical center in Leskovac, in this medical center, so far there are 14 injured people in this great catastrophe. Another civilian target has been hit with an intention to destroy what is most valuable, human lives, murderous attack of innocent lives in an attempt to stop the voice of peace, stated the general director of the Yugoslav Railroad, Svetozar Konstantinovic. This kind of barbaric act hasn't been seen in Europe. The Yugoslav Railroads expressed strong condemnation and regret for this killing of innocent civilians. They also have notified the International Rail Union in Paris, asking it to raise its voice against civilian victims, even on railroads at the heart of Europe. This is what the director of the Yugoslav Railroad stated while visiting the site of the attack. The aggressor army of evil attacked several times Pristina and the region around the town. Around 3 p.m., the murderers of the NATO alliance on the road between Kosovo Polje and Pristina at the very entrance of the town hit a passenger car, killing 5 people. The evil army also targeted the city electric plant, destroyed to the ground, leaving Pristina without electricity. The aggressor planes hit one of the largest cotton factories in the Balkans, Kosovka, that has been significantly damaged. During last night, the evil Air Force of NATO continued its offensive against our country. Targets were again Kragujevac, Novi Sad, Pančevo, Pristina and Kruševac. The evil NATO Air Force acted again tonight in Kragujevac. Exactly at 2:44 in the morning, there were several strong explosions near the Zastava factory. There was immediate response by the firefighters and medical teams. Around 2:30 this morning, the NATO aggressors attacked Pančevo again. These criminals again targeted the fuel factory Serbia. The quick intervention of the firefighters from Pančevo and Belgrade extinguished the flames. Kruševac directly felt the consequences of the aggressions from the NATO alliance. 2 missiles hit 2 of the largest plants. The machine factory, 14th of October, was one of them. The target of the aggressors last night was also the Kruševac heating plant that provided heating for about 4,500 households and 45,000 customers. One of the workers was injured. Strong explosions stirred Novi Sad and the area around. Fortunately, there have been no damages from this beastly attack, except that the force of the explosion distressed the people. The border units of our army repulsed today once again the armed attack of the Albanian terrorists who tried to enter our country from Albania near the border crossings Košara and Morina, west of Đakovica. In the area of the border crossings Košara and Morina, west of Đakovica, visited by our TV team today, there is a joint aggression of the Albanian terrorists and the Evil Alliance, whose helicopters bring new terrorists and armament along the border with Yugoslavia. The terrorists, who also number mujahedins and Croat mercenaries, incessantly attempted throughout the night to attack our border. They were covered by the Albanian artillery that also attacked the village Batusha, several kilometers within our territory. Our border guards have responded to this attack and prevent several hundred terrorists to come onto our territory. We have had no losses, however, we have eliminated about 150 terrorists. Throughout the time, the Air Force of the NATO alliance is watching this area, watching our forces, also guiding the artillery fire from Albania, giving air support to the terrorists. According to our intelligence, so far from the Petrovets airport in Skopje and the border crossing between Macedonia and Greece, there have been 40 dead bodies of NATO soldiers that have been taken out of this area. 2 helicopters damaged over Yugoslav territory tried to land safely in Macedonia, but failed, and all of the commandos from both helicopters perished. The Minister of the Internal Affairs of the Republic of Serbia, Vlajko Stojiljković, received today the delegation of retired civil servants, which included several formerly high officials of our police and security forces. He briefed them on the work of the police forces in these conditions of a neo-Nazi aggression against our country. The retired police and security officials condemned the NATO aggression against our country, stressing the significance of the unity of the people, army and the police, the political parties and the leadership in the defense of freedom, sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Serbia and Yugoslavia. High marks were also given for the police combat with the gangs of Albanian separatists that have intensified their criminal activities with the beginning of the aggression. They offered their great experience in security issues to their people in the situation of struggle for the greatest values of our country. The head of the Yugoslav mission at the United Nations, Vladislav Jovanovic, stated last night for CNN that in Yugoslavia there is peaceful process underway for a political solution of the Kosovo crisis, and that currently there is a third round of discussions between Yugoslav officials and Dr. Ibrahim Rugova. Mr. Rugova understood that he was used and misused by the American and other strategists, whose sole goal was to destabilize Yugoslavia, not to protect the interests of the Kosovo Albanians, stated Mr. Jovanovic. The aggression has to stop, the bombing has to stop, so that we can begin a peace process and normalize the situation. And for the international community, this should be the priority task. The Republican Minister of Information, Aleksandar Vučić, stated today that Radio Belgrade these days successfully conducts one of its key roles to inform the population about current events and shaping the public opinion in our country and abroad. In his meeting today with the radio managers from all 3 programs of Radio Belgrade and the editors of Radio 202 and 101, Mr. Vučić stressed that our journalists, as patriots, respect the national feelings of the people who are in danger, but they never sacrifice the professional, timely and the objective information. Vučić also stated that Radio Belgrade, under these war conditions, has shown its significance and primacy as the main source of accurate information for many listeners, that even while they're hiding from the bombs, are shocked by the evils of the NATO Air Force. Despite the aggressor attempts to destroy radio antennas and relays, Radio Belgrade must remain technically and professionally mobile and strong enough so as to reach with its program most of our territory and the world, stated the minister, stressing the readiness of the government of Serbia to meet all of the vital needs of the radio station. The Federal Minister of Information, Milan Komnenić, received today a group of officials from respected Italian newspapers, Giornale, Stampa and Mattino. Komnenić stated that Yugoslavia is ready to support every honest peace initiative, at the same time noting that the offer of Kofi Annan is a political face-saving attempt, not a move towards real negotiations. Komnenić noted that Yugoslavia carefully watches Italy's attempts to create among the members of the G8 countries a draft proposal for a peace agreement that would be the basis for a political settlement around Kosovo. The citizens of Belgrade, Novi Sad and other towns gathered even this evening on Branko's Bridge, Pančevo's Bridge and other bridges to defend with their bodies from the criminal missiles. As of tonight, citizens will defend the bridges day and night. For several nights already, Yugoslavia defends the bridges in its country. Our night guard under this sky that is lit up by bombs and missiles is a message to the entire world. We defend our bridges because they're a symbol of ties among people. We who live in Yugoslavia, we have always had goodwill and greatest solidarity and desire to live in peace and cooperation with the entire world. These bridges are destroyed by those that have no sense of goodness or solidarity or desire to live with other people as with people. We have built our bridges at daytime with self-sacrifice, with pride. Those who destroy them do that at night in a cowardly way, at the shame of their people. Our nightly guard, our heroic guard around Serbia under these skies will be the pride of our children that are born now and those that will be born. And your destruction and your killing will be the shame of all of the future generations of Americans. The time is not that far when the Americans will understand that in 1999, their powerful and large country was led by a criminal of a twisted mind who wanted to express his power by killing young ladies, children, old people in a small country. In the name of all of us who are guarding the bridges in Serbia, we are sending a message to all of the people of the world. Belgrade is the seat of resistance that should be joined by all humanity. May our message travel along the rivers of Sava and Danube, to the great cold and warm seas, to all of the waters among people and nations. Carry our hope that the world will raise itself against the slavery at its doorstep. Travel our message to all of the people along the banks and on bridges, and convey our unmoved perseverance together to preserve this world on our behalf as defenders of all of Yugoslav bridges. Belgrade people tonight again at the bridge Gazela are creating a living shield against the cruel and inhuman acts of the aggressor that spare neither civilians nor hospitals, houses, factories or bridges. Many days so far we are keeping our bridges and we shall preserve them from this evil aggression of NATO alliance. We have a heart that nobody can conquer. We shall win for sure. They can bomb us, but they cannot destroy us. If they destroy me, somebody else will come to keep another bridge. We shall win. We always worked on bridges. We are from the telecommunication and we link people and we shall continue to link. We don't let them destroy this bridge. We won't let this to anyone. The bridge on Danube between Smederevo and Kovin that connects the north and south of our country, Banat and Šumadija provinces, unified the people of this area. It is our life and will be defended with our lives, say the citizens of these towns. We, all of us gathered here at the bridge, are simply the bridges of our country. Just as in the middle of the only surviving bridge in Novi Sad, the folk groups from two sides joined in their dance, so might the arms of the citizens from the two sides unified in defense of this symbol of a city, a country, a nation. Because a horrible and futile job is to destroy, states the declaration of the Patriotic Front of Novi Sad, and it is especially futile to destroy bridges, for Bačka cannot be separated from Srem, Banat, Šumadija or Kosovo. Bačka cannot be split, nor can Novi Sad be separated from Petrovaradin on the other side or from Belgrade, because bridges are not made of concrete, iron and steel alone. They're made of people. Throughout Yugoslavia and Republika Srpska in Bosnia, there are more protests and concerts against the evil aggression against our country. In front of the National Theatre in Pristina, there was a fourth meeting so far of the citizens of Pristina against the aggression on our country. The protest meeting began with a poetry reading by the poets Milica Lilić and Darinka Jelić, as well as by the National Theatre actor Branko Babović.
Poroci, snovi, godine.
Who is poisoning us? Who is sending us to hell? Are we guilty to be alive, to be Serbs? In the music part of the protest program appeared the orchestra of Radio Pristina, many other folk groups and other artists. At the platform in front of the theater building, there was a large drawing lesson for children from Pristina and other surrounding places. The youngest ones, those most vulnerable to this aggression, drew today what they lived through and what they feel. They all got A's because, as it was noted, they deserve A's by being here today, despite the warnings of the air attacks. For tomorrow noon, there is a new protest scheduled against the NATO aggression attacks. Long live freedom of Yugoslavia. Long live her greatest symbol, Slobodan Milošević. Long live the youth of Yugoslavia. Long live. Long live all our friends. Long live Russia. Long live the people. Long live President Milošević. With the power of truth, rock-hard will, citizens of Bar in Montenegro gathered at the meeting of the National Socialist Party of Montenegro sent a message that the freedom is stronger than the bombs sent by the aggressors from NATO. We are together and more ready than ever. We breathe the same air. We feel with the same heart that we have to defend our hearts, our Montenegro, and our only fatherland, the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. Today, I feel less embarrassed in front of myself and my friends throughout Yugoslavia than during the first days of the aggression. I'm less embarrassed because we are no longer neutral against this fascist attack by Clinton and Blair and all of these other gangsters from the world against our only fatherland, Yugoslavia. Just as our great statesman Njegoš said, one should keep one's honor and name. May anything happen, may eternal struggle happen, and it will be, until we are again our own people, as people. Brutal, evil aggression has been committed against our country because we didn't want to accept that Kosovo and Metohija become Albanian country, because we didn't want to accept that NATO troops enter our country, because we said no to the world policeman, USA. Who in the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia could accept that? Nobody. Kosovo and Metohija is the home of our grandfathers and great-grandfathers. This is where they came from, to these mountains, carrying with themselves their names, their faith, their sense of freedom and justice. This is why we have to, we simply have to, we cannot do otherwise until the last of us survives to defend Kosovo. Hello, Serbia. We came a long way. We from Prijedor and Banja Luka, from Bosnia, to be with you for a moment, to be Belgradians at least for a moment. We have come here. Throughout the world, there are daily mass protests, support for our people against the criminal aggression of the NATO alliance and the bombardment that's daily damaging civilian objects and causing human losses. Throughout Canada, there were more mass protests against the criminal aggression of NATO on Yugoslavia. In addition to the Canadian citizens, there were Serbs, Greeks, Russians, Chinese, and Italians. The participants of this meeting expressed their protest against the biased and unobjective reporting of the Canadian media regarding the events in Yugoslavia.
Our companion network, C-SPAN,